Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to your Monday's Talking Town Extra Time. We are back. Monday is back, and I'm so excited to be with you for the next, 7, 8, 9 Mondays as the business end of the season kicks in. As Town kick themselves into fifth gear. It's only right that Talking Town, the fan platform for fans, by fans, also rises to the challenge, and we are back. So we are back tonight. We are back Wednesday. Then, of course, we are back at Portland Road for Good Friday's home tie to Wickham. But as always, this show can't work without you wonderful people. So please do get involved. Live chat, live link incoming. Phil Blundell hopefully will be joining us as he didn't get on yesterday's Talking Town flagship show, but he's going to kick things off when we drop that link so he can have his say in his own words, totally unfiltered. Don't forget, one club, one community, one Ipswich Town. And as always, if you've been with me from the start on a Monday night, we like to start at the league table. Now, normally, when we did this sort of this time, previous seasons, we've been looking at, well, can we finish 8th? We're sitting in 9th. We're normally going to finish in 10th, but here is your league table this evening, and it's much, much better viewing. It's much better to look at, to gaze at, to stare at, just to love and adore, really. Ipswich Town sitting in 3rd, albeit we're not in that top 2 just yet, but we are 2 points away. A game in hand on Wednesday. If I said that to you, well, in fact, I did say that to you several weeks ago, and I got almost unanimously laughed out of the chat. We're not going to catch Wednesday, Gov. You're dreaming a little bit there, but it is in our hands now. It's all to do. It is all to do. We mustn't get carried away. We mustn't forget that. But it is much better viewing than how we normally view a league table here on a Monday night, which is normally down here somewhere where Shrewsbury, Exeter, and Portsmouth are currently dwelling. So it's much better. I love it, and I hope you do too. Let's get a couple of comments. Mike Baker says, evening all, still buzzing. It's all about momentum. We have it in abundance. Thank you for the super chat last night, Mike, by the way. Appreciate that. Phil Blundell, good evening all. Who's looking forward to Friday? I certainly am, Phil. Already getting that buzz of sold out Portman Road. We'll cover that on Wednesday's match day preview. My screen's just gone off, which is always good on a Monday night. So let me just see if I can fiddle it with a button here. To see if there we go. And I'm back. And you're back, more importantly. Good evening, TT, says Anthony Still. Mr. Parry, a slip from Plymouth opens up both 1 and 2 right now. Only one spot is in our hands, but one spot is all we need. Before I go any further, if you'd like to support the platform, you can do so by hitting the join button on YouTube. And my voice may come, it may go, because I do have, something going on in here, hence the milkshake. So if my voice does go up here or does go down there or just goes completely, do please bear with me this Monday evening. Right, let's kick things off with, Graham Roberts there. Look, managed to get 3 tickets for Friday earlier. Can't wait to get there. And Sean says, listen to your show yesterday, but didn't put a comment on. There's no signal in Planet Pluto. Where's Planet Pluto? What's Planet Pluto? Do fill me in, Sean. Do you mean Planet Blue? I'm not quite sure. Anyway, joining me tonight is the resident Mr. Monday Designer George Nunn.
I wouldn't be surprised either way.
I wouldn't be surprised either way. And are you surprised either way that we are where we are in that league table, George? Considering how it read a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, a tiny bit.
Oh, you are.
Maybe not a couple of weeks ago, like 8 weeks ago.
8 weeks ago. Yeah, the last time we were on a Monday together.
Probably, yeah.
Quite as cheery, did it?
Yeah, we might have to have another hiatus if our fortunes change over the weekend.
yeah. Town Sunny's like doing this a little bit. We'll soon disappear. Don't worry. We'll take one for the team. Question from Phil: why is George Nunn the designer? Because George Nunn designs everything you see on the screen.
George Nunn is not a designer by any stretch of the imagination. But...
Oh, he is. He designs such beautiful pieces. You always know when you've done it and when I've done it. Because when you've done it, it looks like a Vincent van Gogh. When I've done it, it looks like me 3-year-old was let loose with Photoshop. See, there you go. Beautiful. Listen. Let's start with the news coming out this evening. Obviously, Town announcing 12.6 million loss for year to June 2022, up 6.4 million from previous year. Operating loss was 14.4 million, up from 7.7, but turnover up to 14.4 from 8.1, and the wage bill, that all important wage bill, up to 16.4 from 13.9. Now, when accounts come out, fans can sometimes get, and in some cases, rightfully concerned, worried. They see the big number, 12.6 million loss. What are your thoughts, having looked at it and sort of digested it this afternoon a little bit?
Well, we've got nothing to be concerned about, right? Because it's not debt. Nothing's
to anybody else but the game changer.
Nothing's been added to our ITFCs.
Correct.
In fact, we seem to have equity where previously we didn't, which is great. So it's a statement of intent, is how I see it. And don't forget, this is last year's statement of intent, not this year's. So expect that to change again in next year's accounts, which will be to this season. So I think it's generally pretty positive. There's obviously some COVID stuff into the previous years, and I don't pretend for a second to be an accountant, but it all looks pretty positive and nothing to be remotely concerned about from our perspective as a club. And we want to get to where we want to get to, then we need to spend some money.
Yeah, so
we've been bemoaning the lack of spend for the last 20 years, so it would be
is it
hypocritical to suddenly start complaining about it.
Well, this is it. It's not a profit-making business, football, is it? Let's be honest. It is a loss-making business, and just reading what was put on to TWT, it does say the club has no external debt aside from 397,000 in loan notes taken out following the Blues' spill in administration 20 years ago. So no external debt for all intents and purposes. It's just a sign of ambition, isn't it? As you say, it's the sign of intent. It's the sign of, as sort of Paul P says here, losses come from investments necessary to compensate for years of neglect.
Yeah, and they've got to put a lot right off the pitch, and I think Phil alluded to that in his report as well. And there's so much to do, and we're going to be adding another couple of million quid for the pitch this year, and it's all necessary stuff when they've just been plastering over broken limbs for the last 20 years plus. They've got a lot to do, so there'll be much more spend over the coming months, and I'm all for it. It's not my money.
Certainly not. I'm not. And when you think about football clubs and you think about evaluations of football clubs inside the Premier League, or such as Burnley, just who recently were sold before they dropped out of the Premier League, we're talking hundreds of million. This is kind of a little amount, isn't it? Really, I mean, all things going well. We look at the league table, we get a little bit excited if we get ourselves promoted. You're one promotion away from the Premier League, and once you're in that Premier League and you're among the big boys, you're among the Premier League money, as it were. The TV deals are only going up and up, because in TV land, live sport is king. Because
I went down a rabbit hole earlier with the numbers. I was looking at numbers and then started looking at only because I looked at the TV numbers and noticed that ours had gone down. And I'm not sure why that is, because other than League One, because I don't think there's a merit-based system in the EFL for TV money. So I don't think where you finish necessarily makes a difference like it does in the Premier League. But it's gone down by, I did have a look, 28, nearly 30%, right? So,
wow,
which is crazy, from 4.3 to 3 million between the season before and last season. And who knows if it's going to go down again? I'm not sure, or why that is. It might just be because there was a lot more televised sport during COVID. I don't know. You look at the Premier League and how it goes up year on year, and a couple of clubs have gone down because it is merit based. So where they finish does make a difference, but they get a guaranteed. Every club gets a guaranteed £78 million. That's before everything. That's before actually being on television, which is just insane. It shows the difference. And you're right. We're not going to make profit until you're a top end of the championship selling club. You start selling all your best assets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you even becoming a yo-yo club doesn't guarantee you sustained profitability.
No, but are we in agreement that the end goal is eventuality to be sold? Like the end goal is eventually for the football club to be.
That's the end goal of any investment, isn't it? I'd
have thought so.
You don't buy. You either buy a football club because for the love of that football club, or you buy it with the intention of making money on it, making it successful and making money on it, which I'm absolutely certain was Marcus Evans' intention. He just
Once upon a time.
Isn't let's not get into that. But yeah, so of course it is. And I think they've been pretty open about that. I mean, I think early on it was kind of, you know, there will always be an intention to sell, but there's no immediate urgency to sell.
Mm.
And I think coming up to what you were saying before about the spend, I think what I'm most concerned about is the quality of the spend, I guess, if that's the right way to put it. So it doesn't feel like we're throwing money after our rope. Like we are spending on a lot of necessity off of the pitch, and let's face it, necessity on the pitch too. So and that money does cover the Paul Cook apocalypse.
Well, so in regard, when you look at it then, so you've got a low net transfer spend. In was 2.6 from the sales of Flynn Downs to Swansea, Desalowed to QPR, Fraser to Charlton, and compensation for Norwich for Give. But 3.4 for players brought in: Burgess, Chaplin, Edmondson, Haladke, Harper, and Walton. Is that where your eyes are sort of almost more intently fixed, in the sense of, is that a return for money, the 3.4 there for that group of players?
No, I don't think so. I don't worry too much about what we spend on players and whether they were worth that money or not. You have that conversation all day long, but I think it will even itself out for every player that hasn't quite made it as a regular first team starter. Like, I don't know, I'm gonna chuck a name out, but you know, probably from that list there's one, maybe two that we spent a bit of money on, but then we've spent a little bit more money, but not huge amounts more money, on the likes of Davis and Broadhead and Clark,
which will come in next year's figures.
Which will come in next year's figures, but those are three guys that, on the face of, you know, what we've seen so far, they look worth every penny, every single penny, and
absolutely,
and that's great, and it will even itself out.
Absolutely,
it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If we spend 30 million quid on transfers and it gets us out of this league and halfway up the next league, it doesn't matter who we've bought in that 30 million pounds, because the end result is where we want it to be and what we want it to do. So
okay. Perfect. All right. Paul P says club's been completely rebuilt from the ground up on and off the pitch. Mr. Pray disagrees. Ever so says not end goal. He says end goal is Premier League and continued return for the pension fund. Jody, you can see the differences around the ground investment wise. Evans would have left Portman Road to Rotwell. He almost did. Craig at Portsmouth. In a couple of years, we're spending 12.5 million on one player. Speculate to accumulate. I love that. That'd be exciting times. So 4.5 million for Matteo Cirilli, sort of held as the highest transfer fee for, well, I had no hair on my chin when that was done. So certainly a long time ago. Now, before we sort of bring Phil Blundell in to have his say that he didn't have yesterday, you were on the full-time show yesterday, on Saturday rather, but you're sitting here on a Monday night. Obviously, things are more measured on a Monday night. You're out of that 24-hour game period. What are your thoughts on the game as a whole on Saturday, then, sitting here this evening?
I thought it was excellent. I'd happily watch play football like that any day of the week in any league.
Oh,
I thought watching that almost didn't matter too much that we were in League One. I mean, I think probably helped that we were playing against Derby, who were also trying to play a bit of football. But I thought it was excellent and really positive. I think we need to stay grounded in terms of what happens over the rest of the season, regardless of what happens over the rest of the season. But I think signs have only been positive over the last 2 months that we are absolutely headed in the right direction.
What's been the biggest turnaround then? What's been the sort of the catalyst behind it? I mean, for example, that first goal Saturday. Do you think we scored that type of goal 2 months ago? Do you think Walton collects the ball and then maybe slows it and then distributes it to the two centre halves that then rebuild it from there? Or do you still? Because I honestly, that's my genuine opinion. I think maybe 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, we don't look to hit a team as quick as we did on that counter attack. We're not looking to make that pass that Walton eventually did, and then Broadhead obviously sweeps it. I think we do slow it. I think we do go to the centre half. What's been the biggest turnaround in the time we've not been on air Monday to the time we are now?
Yeah, it's really tricky. I think you're probably right. I think there's an element of that. I think we're much more balanced now than we were 4 months ago, even as a squad. So I think Walton probably has more confidence that he can he has that option down either side, so he can look for that space on be it left or right, and everything about that move particularly just oozed confidence, didn't it? It was confidence and self-belief. Like just before Broadhead crosses, he takes a longer stride and just absolutely, and everything about it. So people have sent it to me in the last couple of days who aren't Ipswich fans, who I've just known, because there's been like Reddit chats about the quality and speed,
really,
the counter attack, like.
Wow.
Just random football fans, and I've literally never been sent anything like that by
Tanner on Reddit.
Exactly, and it's crazy, but it was just such a sublime piece of football, and it's not the only one that we've seen over the last couple of months, and I think a lot of that comes from self confidence, and that's stuff that we've talked about before, and they just looked a bit down in the doldrums a little bit, and not particularly. Like it will be interesting to see when we inevitably drop a point. Sorry to be that guy. How we react to it.
No, I think it's an excellent point.
The first one will be conceding a goal, but when we drop points between now and the end of the season, how we bounce back from that will be a test.
I think it's an excellent point. It's the exact same reason I tipped several weeks ago Wednesday to do what Wednesday have done, because they were flying high, momentum, 20-game streak, blah, blah, blah. But when you get punched in the mouth, it's how you respond to the punch in the mouth that really defines sometimes how your season goes. And it could end up being that way for Wednesday. And they took a punch in the mouth from Barnsley. And they stumbled a little bit in the last couple of games, like Lincoln at the weekend 1-1, and I think it was Cheltenham or Exeter the week before. See, I do agree. Before I bring Phil in, you do say more balance down the left and right. So is Harry Clark's arrival being really key to that rejuvenation, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he looks great. I think he looks a real find. Yeah, I think he just brings something. I have nothing against Donatian at all, particularly last season and a bit. He's been great, but he looks like he gives that side all of the balance and confidence that Davis and Greg Lee, to be fair to him, give the left. And I don't know what it is, and I don't think it's that one thing particularly. I think that's the thing. It's not just one thing. We talked before Christmas about whether Kevin Mincher had gone. When it looked like their heads had dropped, and I think was it you that sent me a picture of him back a couple of weeks ago. I don't know whether he did go and come back. I'd be interested to know if he did go and come back. But that kind of, even little things like that off the pitch, like having a good coach that can sit them down individually if needs be, as well as a team, and talk to them about their mindset and all of the rest of it. And it just feels like all of them have a real energy and drive at the moment, which is great.
Absolutely, that mentality. Mark Downer, I forget a lot of sports haven't seen any type of success before. I think we'll get automatic if we don't lose again. Dave said the difference is Broadhead and Luongo. The four new signings, says Lee Brown. We've got Graham Roberts. While we paid the money for Broadhead, we now have a plan B and a plan C. Andy Barrell, the debacle at Bristol Rovers meant there had to be change, and this was recognised, and we are reaping the benefits. Emerson, we are so much more solid in the middle of the park. Dave Eaton, the guy who got stuck into the skipper at Bristol, maybe touched the nerve, but also the blue touch paper. Morse and the team have been flying ever since. Good point. We've got over 130 people watching, over 130, near 140 on YouTube alone. Hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. Give us that thumbs up, that all-important thumbs up. Every thumb up is a prayer for Town to win on Friday. So really, if we don't win Friday, you've only got yourselves to blame, yeah, let's be honest. But yeah, so biggest turnaround. Why the turnaround? Phil Blundell, what are your thoughts on that one?
So what were we talking about?
The biggest turnaround. Why have we turned it around? What's been the biggest change in the turnaround?
I think if you look at the course of the season, for me, there were some warning signs around the end of November, beginning of December. And for me, like people have been saying in the media, online, the biggest change, the biggest impact on our season this season has been that January transfer window and bringing in those players that we have done. Great investment. All those players that we brought in are making a real difference to the team. And going back to the early part of the season, I thought to myself, with McKenna's style of play, I knew at some point that he would need a plan B. And he's managed to do that with the players that he's brought in. He's gone from like was it a 3 at the back to a 4 at the back. And we look so much more defensively solid, than we did before the end of last year. And it's really, at the moment, it's really paying off at the moment. It's obviously made us more compact, obviously more dangerous on the break, as we saw on Saturday. And McKenna has really found that right balance. He's found that missing X factor that we needed, on the back end of last season, and everyone's seeing it in full light, and it's wonderful to see, especially that counter-attack move on Saturday. That was a highlight for me on Saturday afternoon.
I won't ask George this because I know his feelings on Mr. Lee Evans. But Zirek says, going to be really Sarah Macabre here, but could Evans being injured actually be the blessing in disguise? What are your thoughts on that, Phil?
Well, so we've got so many midfielders at the moment. You've got Kamara to come in. Obviously McKenna and Ashton's planning for next season. If he makes any more, if we do, when we do go up, if he brings in any more players, will he bring in another midfielder? I can see the likes of Humphreys going out on loan next season. I can see, Kamara getting some good game time. Hopefully before the end of the season we see him in a Town shirt. But I would say right now it's a tough call because he's got Don Ball now back in the match day squad. Mm-hmm. So you'd say that his recovery is ahead of Evans right now. And if we pick up any injuries, say God forbid we don't, maybe at the back, say maybe Burgess or Wolfie gets injured, then Ball can fill in at the back too. So at the moment, for Lee Evans, I don't know. At the moment it's looking maybe a touch doubtful, but who knows? If we get 1 or 2 bad injuries in the next week or so, then everyone in the squad is going to be called upon for this running because over the next 4 or 5, especially this month alone, it's going to be a tough running. 2 games a week is going to be some taking to do.
It's going to take the squad. George, how about yourself? I know you've been critical of Lee Evans, it's fair to say, over the course of the season. Massimo's come in, played really well, but had to come in because of injury to Lee Evans. So is Zirak a little bit correct there? Because does he keep his place over Maz, and then you never see what Maz can bring, or do you think Maz's own quality would have, in the end, sort of elbowed out Lee? Where are you on what Zirak has sort of said there?
I think I said on Saturday, I think the Luongo-Morsey partnership has changed Morsey's role for me for the better. And I think if Evans, when Evans gets fit, I think at the moment he replaces Humphreys on the bench. Okay.
Yeah. Do you agree with Phil then? Next year, Humphreys maybe goes out on loan and has another year to being a first-team player for someone else in that development role?
I think it depends what league we're in.
Oh, okay. Well, let's live in both leagues for a minute. So we're staying in League One. Where does Humphreys go for you?
Nowhere.
If we get promoted to the Championship, is he then loaned out, or is he still amongst the squad?
I think I wouldn't want to loan him out. I would want him to be in our 3 central midfield, our top 3 central midfield options, I think, based on what I've seen of him.
Okay, all right. Phil,
I think that the thing for me is we don't know where Luongo will be next summer. Yeah, and whether Lee Evans fits into a Championship midfield, I'm going to let other people debate.
Fair enough. Phil, you didn't get on yesterday's show. So what are your thoughts after the weekend, and what else do you want to sort of bring to the party in your own words?
Well, I was going to say yesterday I was keen to review the disallowed goal incident with Crunch to see if he agreed or disagreed with it. I have been looking at it. I've looked at it 3 or 4 times from the highlights, and just before I do, talking about what players may or may not be here next season. If we are still in League One again next season, I don't think I can see Luongo, hanging around. I think that what he's done, he's put himself in the shop window, because I think probably in his mind he probably sees himself more as a Championship / Premier League player, and I think that's probably where he'd want to be playing his football next season. Mm-hmm. And even say if you were to talk to, say, a Sheffield Wednesday fan, if there is one on the podcast tonight, they probably would say that Luongo is really more of a Championship player. So out of contracts in the summer, there's going to be some clubs lining up for a signature. If we just miss out on promotion, and I think next season, I would say if we're on League One next season, then maybe Humphrey stays. I would probably tend to agree with George on that. But at the moment, we just don't know. But it's increasingly likely that we will win promotion this time around. So we should be the champions next term.
Do you think yesterday's result for Plymouth affects things, Phil?
Yes, it does.
They got battered.
Yeah, they did. This was a record-breaking win in the English Football League Trophy final, 4-0 for Bolton. And I think for me, it just shows this is crucial at this point in the season. So if you look at the teams who have had some type of cup run this season, like ourselves, we did ourselves the world of good, putting in performances against a top-end Championship club this season. You look at Bolton, obviously, great cup run, they've won it. Plymouth have had a good cup run too. But I think ultimately, that's going to knock Plymouth, because everyone knows that they don't have a good away record. And even though they've got, say, a more favourable run in this season, I still think there's going to be a couple of away games, that they will drop points, where they'll maybe draw. I for one, I think when they come to play Exeter, I think it's at Exeter's ground, that's where they'll come unstuck. And even against Morecambe on this Friday, Morecambe, obviously they're not the best football playing team that you get to play, but Morecambe are fighting, and when you're playing a team that's fighting, that team has always got a chance, and I just think that with Plymouth, they're now going to be, there's going to be maybe just a lull, I think, and I think that they will drop points, in a couple of those certainly away games that they've got remaining.
Okay, and finally, before I let you go and bring in Rob, your thoughts on the decision then that you wanted to bring up, the big decision.
Yes, okay. So the disallowed goal decision, right? Ultimately, I've got the video up and I'm looking at it as I'm talking. Obviously, the corner's taken in the corner of where the town fans are. You've got You've got 5 of our town players just inside the goal in the 6-yard area, with Burgess and Wolfie in the centre. Now Burgess is standing just beyond Wolfie. Wolfie's at the near post. Burgess is 2 or 3 yards behind him. And when the corner is swung in, you've got a melee of another 3 or 4 town players with 4 Derby players, including the number 6 Cashin, who is coming in. He's situated around the penalty spot. And as the ball comes in, Burgess moves towards the near post, and he is just about to head it. He's just about to head the ball away when Cashin comes in with his elbow and he makes contact with his neck. Now, Burgess, he goes down. He hits the neck, wham.
He does.
And the ball goes in. Now, just before the ball is headed towards McGoldrick, who was actually standing right in front of Walton. He was right up against Walton. He was standing. So at that point, you could say that perhaps McGoldrick was impeding Walton, which would give the supporter the illusion that he's obviously interfering with an opponent, and he's obviously standing in front of the goalkeeper, which nowadays the offside law dictates that he's obviously in an offside position. And because he's interfering with an opponent, he could be penalised for that offside. But as the ball comes in, Burgess hits the back of the deck. Now he immediately gets back up, runs to the referee like this. Okay. Now the referee is going on what he sees, not what the assistant sees, because the assistant didn't flag for an offside. Let me clarify that. It wasn't offside by McGoldrick. Okay. He didn't flag for it. It wasn't offside. And then it obviously took him, maybe 2 or 3 more minutes, to realise that I don't understand. I don't understand, right, why Paul Warne said after the game that the assistant came up to him and apologised, saying to him that he wasn't sure whether he got the decision right or not, because it wasn't the assistant's decision to make. Okay, right, and the referee eventually realised that he actually got his original decision correct in disallowing the goal because it was a foul. And because Cashin was already on a yellow card, I think he was lucky to stay on the field of play. So I would slightly tend to disagree with what Crunch was saying yesterday. Okay, I didn't watch the game. The referee probably, I'm going to say, I'm a solicitor to the radio. I couldn't understand why he didn't book Collins for that bad challenge on Broadhead, which, eventually Broadhead had to go off because of it. He should have been booked for that. But I would slightly disagree with what he said about the fact that the referee made a diabolical decision.
Absolutely, and I did say yesterday I thought it was a foul on Burgess, which is what I think was given, and I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
He was eagle-eyed, and if anyone's listening to what I've said just now, go on YouTube, look at that highlights video after a minute and 20, about a minute and 15 seconds, and you'll see what I mean. If you pause it. It took me 3 or 4 attempts to really see what he meant, but I mean, so even that main camera angle is a little bit obscure, but you can see that just high arm just crashes into Burgess's neck and he goes down, and Burgess wasn't happy about that. He got straight back.
No, he wasn't. I saw that myself live.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And,
Phil, as always, you are an eagle-eyed referee.
Just one more quick thing before I go.
Go on, very quick.
Okay, I was looking at the Sheffield Wednesday news about the injuries to Windass and Byers. Darren Moore said after the game on Saturday that Windass is actually back on the grass doing some training work, so he might be available for the Oxford game, which was actually televised live on Sky. But George Byers is longer term. Now we hope, fingers crossed, that will still affect Wednesday's performance when they play Oxford. Oxford are now they've found some resurgent in them. So I'm kind of hoping that Oxford, will be roared on by a good crowd, and they'll get a good result again on Friday, which will take Wednesday back even further. But like I said, I do expect now to Plymouth to drop some points, perhaps maybe away from home between now and the end of the season, which will give us a better, increasing amount of hope for the run-in. But we're now like 2 games a week now. I want to see how Barnsley, Plymouth, Wednesday get on after this Friday's fixture, when we're doing every 3 or 4 days, because that saps energy, as you know, and we've got the squad to cope for it. So fingers crossed.
Well, this is it. The squad depth will really be coming into play in the next couple of weeks. Phil, as always, good to hear from you. Good to speak. I'm going to talk about Ipswich Town with you. Look after yourself. All the best. George, got a couple of comments coming in. With Jody, Derby got let off by the referee a few times. Cashin, McGoldrick, and Collins should have had at least yellow cards. Also, the Town yellows for time wasting were very harsh. Oh, we've got 5 euros from David Bergin. Thank you very much. Sharon says, Philip Blundell, thanks for the detailed explanation. That is what Phil brings to the party. He's a referee, George. Could you tell that?
Yes, he went a lot to each other. I'm glad you didn't ask me, because I haven't watched it back. It wasn't a goal, so I don't care. Some would agree with you. Ryan Curry, can we just admit that we got away from this style goal? If it was a pen, there would be a penalty at every corner. Now, I've got a little, before I bring in Mark Downing, because Rob is frozen and dropped out, so I'll bring in Mark in just a moment. I've got a little graphic here to share from you from Twitter. It's most minutes without conceding. UEFA's top 5 leagues. We sit top, 776 minutes. Juventus are in second. Anytime you're leading Juventus, I reckon you're doing pretty well. Preston, Barcelona, and I mean, what a group of teams they are there, George. Ipswich, Juventus, Preston, Barcelona, and Lazio. No, that's not your Champions League group in 2033. It is most minutes without conceding. So it's been a while, it's fair to say. So here at Talking Town, as it's a Monday night, we have spared no expense in this next segment. I have dusted the bank, the wallet off. I have wrote the check, and no expense has been spared for a new feature we are calling Park the Bus.
Now you watch this fucking concede on Friday night, and that would be the one and only time I ever get to use that piddling graphic. But as you can see, no expense was spared. So what's been the main difference in that clean sheet drive? I've got Wolfenden and Burgess written down. Is it them two forming an absolute formidable partnership in the centre of that back line for you?
Yeah, I mean they've definitely formed themselves a decent partnership, haven't they? But I think it's a all team effort of defending, right? Like we don't. I think we fewer chances get as far as Wolfenden and Burgess as much as anything. I don't know. It's just been a phenomenal effort over the last few weeks. Like it's different because it's not just the defence that aren't conceding. We're scoring goals. We're just playing some sublime football. It's I wouldn't necessarily make it simple as putting it down to Wolfenden and Burgess, really, because it's not like they're being absolutely bombarded by teams. Like Derby didn't really threaten that much. There were a couple of times where it looked like McGoldrick, because McGoldrick is still quality, albeit aging quality, and he's lost a little bit of his touch. But there were a couple of times where you kind of thought, oh God, he probably should have done better then. But other than that, they didn't really look a threat. It's not like they were knocking the door down and Wolfenden and Burgess were just constantly fending off a barrage. But again, that's not to belittle their part in it. It's just, I think as a team, we just don't really look like we're going to allow. We don't want to allow teams to score.
You're putting it at the collective team door. Graham Roberts giving a £5 super chat. I appreciate that, Graham. Thanks ever so much. I would like to make it known George Nunn is the designer, but he had no hand in this. This was all me. I think
he probably tried to find an Ipswich bus.
I think he's probably sitting there really internally screaming at me to let the world know that he had no part whatsoever in that.
Like you said, it's obvious the stuff that you do.
I see. Thanks ever so much, mate. Really appreciate that. That is just cut me deep. Mark Dowling, give Wolfenden and Burgess their flowers. Surely, George says it's a team game, but George is always about the collective. Come on, it's all down to Wolfie and Burgess, isn't it? Mark, you're on mute, mate. Either that or I've lost my hearing thanks to that fantastic graphic. I ain't quite sure. No, Mark. Try and come back to us a bit. I'll bring in Stephen Parry. Stephen, will you give Wolfenden and Burgess? If you don't, I will mute you the same way I just did Mark, all right?
Look, Wolfenden and Burgess, I've been a critic of Burgess. I think he's done quite well. Wolfenden has been pretty solid all season, but it's George makes a good point. I think Morsey as well. Now Luongo's there, he can come back for the ball more than what he was doing. He can come and pick the ball off the defenders and take them off the defenders, then move it into the midfield. He wasn't able to do that as much when Humphreys was there or Evans was there, because he was always asked to do a bit more up front. So now he can just sit there and recycle the ball at the back with the defenders. And I think Davies plays a role. He's an outlet for Burgess on the left-hand side. They all play a part. It's like a car. If you take a piece out of the car, it doesn't work. If you take one piece out of that, it doesn't work. It all works itself. And I think Walton's improved as well. I think he sat down and looked in the mirror and said, look, I've been doing some stuff that maybe I should have been doing better at. And I think he's improved. And I think as well as them all taking, a collective bow, individually they should all take a bow. But like most managers will say, your defence starts at the front. And we stop so much coming forward from our pressing at the front. They don't really have as much as to do as what a lot of clubs do, because you've got Hurst running at people. And when they get past Hurst, you've got number 10s running at you, trying to press you down. And we pick up so many balls up at the top end of the pitch, which would have ended up at the bottom end of the pitch a couple of seasons ago. So you've already got a good foundation because there's not as much work for the defence to do because the attack and the midfield are taking it away from them. So it's all working in unison. I think they all deserve a collective bow for the defending, even the attackers.
Okay, on that note, the attackers, we have often had differences, me and you, Mr. Perry, about Wharton, actually, when he first signed. I remember that like it was yesterday. We also had a difference of opinion when George Hurst was signed.
Yeah, he's a quality player.
Well, it's your turn to preach, my friend, because, you know,
Well,
he's
no,
making you look like Nostradamus.
Look, with any player, it can go one of either way. You know, he went to Blackburn and he stumped the place out. No, let's not be. And everybody's saying, even I'm saying, well, we'll sign him. Well, he's unproven in the Championship. You know, people are turning now and saying, well, he scored some goals with us. If Leicester go down, Leicester will keep him. Why? He's unproven in the Championship. They will be buying, if not, low-end Premier League, proven Championship strikers. They will not be having someone who's never scored a goal in the Championship. That's just not going to happen. Yeah. Will he be a good Championship striker? Damn right he is. He's got all the tools and all the attributes to be a good Championship striker. He needs a home. That's what he needs. He's like Walton. He needs somewhere he can call home. Yeah. He thought it was at Leicester. Leicester don't want him. I'm sure he knows Leicester don't want him. You know, if they wanted him, they'd have given him a chance, and they've just loaned him to everybody who wants him. Yeah. So he needs a home. He needs to settle down, just like Walton did. And look at what we're getting with Walton. Same with Broadhead. Broadhead needed a home. Everton didn't want him. Fine, we'll give you a few quid. We'll take him off your hands. We'll give you a home, and we'll make you into what everybody knows you can be. These players just need somewhere to settle down and be taught the right way in an environment that wants them. And a lot of these young players from Premier League academies, they know they're not even wanted. They're just there because it makes the Premier League academy look good. And then when push comes to shove and it's time to sign a contract to be a professional, 99% of them just get moved on somewhere else. And I think that's where a lot of our transfer business will be done. Harry Clark's, and I still think Tyrese John Jules will probably someone will look at in the summer. A lot of these players who are damn good players, and 2 years ago we'd never dreamed of getting any of them, will be coming here, give them a home, treat them right, show them the right way, and we'll reap the benefit.
I do agree with you. Ultimately, we all just want to be loved, right? And that includes football players, particularly football players. They all just want to be loved, have a home, and have somewhere where, so everyone looks at them and adores them.
But it's like I said, it's not a matter of, I was right, you were wrong. I just didn't think we'd go down the route of spending £5 million on a Johnson Clark-Harris or £10 million. I just don't think that was what we needed. I don't think that's the way we wanted to go. We wanted to go down the Broadhead route, spend 1.5 million. We go up, he could be worth 8 figures quite easily. Johnson Clark-Harris would never be, if we went up, would never go up in value. Never, because of his age. That's worth it, because whether you like it or not, age plays a huge role in your value. Unless you're at the real top end, where you can get sold at 30-year-old for like 50 million. When you're like in the Championship League One, a 24-year-old going up to the Championship will be worth more than a 30-year-old going up to the Championship, just because of his age. Sad but true. And that's why the club was looking at short-term investment for long-term gain. And if we look at, you were talking earlier on about money we've spent on players, like 6 million or something this year. Yeah. If we go up, you could easily say the players we've got in, you probably times that by 4, easy. Just on what they're worth now. So it was sensible investment. And I think that will continue. Not necessarily the £15 million signings, but it'll be what is this player? What can he do? What can he give us? And how much in time will he be worth? Sure. And I think that's the direction we'll go.
He is right, though, isn't he, George? Really, one of the most upsetting things about getting old is when you realise football players over the age of 30 are no longer worth anything.
What else do you mean? You do feel more worthless as you get older. I can confirm. I 100% agree with what Steve says there. To be honest, I think that the thing specifically with Hurst, did he sign a new contract with him before he came?
Well, we've got a comment in the chat here from Phil saying he thought Hurst signed a new extending contract before he left.
I know the details behind that. He signed a contract with Leicester. He went on loan with Blackburn, but they had a guaranteed £5 million buyout clause in him. Yeah, Blackburn didn't want to buy him. Yeah, so they had to get Leicester to say, right, we'll take him back. But Leicester would only do that if there was somebody else they could send him to. Now, I don't know whether there's a buy clause in it now with us. I don't think there is. But I know the reason Blackburn wanted him shut because it was guaranteed at the end of the season they had to pay $5 million. They didn't want to.
Yeah, so I think the thing for Leicester is that if they do go down, if that happens, that's a big if, but that they're gonna. He's a young, as Stephen says, unproven at championship level striker who's just signed a new Premiership contract. Like, he's going to be earning enough money, and who knows what it has in terms of relegation clauses and the rest of it, whether they're anticipating relegation then. But he's going to be a high earner for an unproven Championship striker. So offloading him is probably something that would make sense from their perspective. And
if it helps, I think I heard his contract was about 20,000 a week.
Yeah,
roughly. But if they got relegated, that'll get cut down. So it's probably somewhere around 17,500. But if he got offered somewhere, if we went up and we bought him and we offered him somewhere like 15 over a long term, I think he would turn around, 17 at a club I'm not really wanted, or 15 long term at a club I'm wanted. For me, I think that's a no-brainer for any player. That's why you see some clubs going to Wrexham and probably taking a pay cut because they wanted them. You know, being wanted is more important sometimes in football than a paycheck. And being at the right place where you feel you can do a good job is more important. And playing, obviously, because I don't think he'll play much for Leicester. You know, if it's a toss-up between sitting on the bench at Leicester or playing first team in Championship with us, what do? It's a no-brainer as a footballer.
Yeah, and playing with a team that's on a high with a bunch of guys your age who you've just won promotion with any luck from League One with. I think there's a lot of positives in there as a prospective new home. That's how you want to put it.
But even if we don't get him, there will be others. You know, there's lots of players out there. And I think we need to open our eyes up to, probably even if we go to the Championship, the South American market. There's a lot of good South American players who you can get a snip, you know, who are very talented young players who come across, and they're easier to get now, than they are from Europe. So because you automatically get more points or something for a South American player than you do for a European player for some weird reason. So they're easier to get. That's why Burnley and Norwich have got South American players, because they're easier to get hold of due to the work permit rules.
It's very true, particularly after COVID, Brexit, and everything else. Steve, before I let you go, your chance to have your say. Anything else before you do you want to put before the masses known as the town faithful?
We have done the hard bit, cutting the gap. Now we've got, as you might say, the easier bit, but let's just focus on the prize. One game at a time. Let's not get too high. Let's not get too low. We can quite easily, Derby away was a very hard game. Nobody, it was like Bolton, a very tricky place to go. Many people, even Sheffield Wednesday fell foul to. There's only Plymouth beating Derby away, and I think that was a dubious penalty. The top and bottom of it is that wasn't an easy place to play, and we came through it. Let's focus one game at a time, and then tick them off one at a time, and just get more points than the teams above us.
Okay. Bit boring that, Steve, to be honest with you. Not too high, not too low. Can't be dealing with that.
I was just about to say that's incredibly wise words. I couldn't have put it better.
Winning the league, Steve.
I'm positive. I'm pretty sure we'll go up. Yeah, that's my usual stance. But I've said that for ages, and then I got disappointed. Yeah, I don't want to get disappointed again. So I just want to be a little bit steady-headed for the next 8 games. Then I'll go apeshit.
I'm right. I'll take that.
When we scored on Saturday, I was dancing around the house.
You were top off, whipping it around your head like that when you were going mental, mate. You were
I'm glad the wife was out.
Love it, Steve. As always, a pleasure talking football.
Look after yourself.
Love him. Got Jeremy to come on just a second. You're going to say he's talking sense. Carry the point.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if that's not part of the conversation that they're having internally, which is like, let's not see this as 8 clean sheets, 7 wins on the bounce. Let's not get too bogged down in that. Like, let's just start from, we've got back to parity, no pun intended, and let's just take each game now as it comes and get the points. Like, forget about all of because there is going to be added pressure from the media and everyone else talking about the clean sheet run and all of the rest of it, and records are being set left, right, and centre. But the main thing is points from each game, and I think Steve put it really well.
Okay, perfect. Jeremy, welcome in, my man. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Martin, and you?
Top of the world, Jeremy. Town are going up, mate.
True.
Connor Chaplin, another goal on Saturday. I'm going to ask you both. I'll start with you, Jeremy. How many goals will Connor Chaplin end on come the end of the season?
24, 25 easily.
Easily? Do you not fancy him for more then, Jeremy, if that's a bit too easy for our boy Chaplin?
Probably. Might even get 30. You know, I mean, there's still enough games to go. I mean, I say we are going up. I've said that all this season, that we will get promoted as champions this season. I've still got it firmly fixed in my mind.
Okay, all right. Curate says 23. Josh says 27. And Zurek says 22. Jeremy, with a handful of games left to go. I say a handful, so I can't remember exactly how many are left to go. We're on 38, 46, 8. He says 30, 8. George, bring a little bit of sensibility to it. How many are you going to say?
26.
12. It's not too far from Jeremy, you know. 30.
He's due a hat trick. He's like,
true.
He's Mr. Brace, isn't he? I want to see him get 3 in a game. Challenge.
The challenge for him actually is staying on the field. To be fair,
he's watching and desperate to prove me right.
For next season.
Do you think, George, he's been in Team Kieran McKenna? Because a couple of times he's run 2 goals and he's been brought off. As a player, if you were him in his shoes, and I know what I would do, and maybe I'm a bit of a diva, I don't know, but I would have been knocking on the door the second time and saying, any chance I actually stay on the football field just to see if I could get a hat trick? Because I don't mind once coming off for the benefit of the team on 2, but more than once or twice, not for me. How about you?
I'm sure he doesn't enjoy coming off.
I'd be the same. I'd feel the same.
See, Jimmy and Jezza, we're divas, mate. All right, but
but as a player, I think you would be. But I quite like that McKenna keeps dragging him off when he's got to. And he's not doing it to piss him off or to prove a point, but he's doing it because the game's more important. But score a hat trick before you're taken off. That's the challenge.
That's the challenge, absolutely. Jeremy, Sam Morsey, player resurgent in the last couple of weeks. People are saying that's down to Maz. I think that's taken away from Sam a little bit. I think he's really had the bit between his teeth and he's been a fantastic leader and performer. How have you seen our captain's performance in the last couple of weeks?
Well, what I've made of him since Bristol Rovers, he's been on fire.
He has. He really has. Yeah, truly, he's been on fire. Yeah. But what's that down to? Is that down to him or is that down to the partner next to him? Because many would tell me it's down to Maz. For you, what's it down to?
I think he had I think Morsey had a wake-up call because of what he got after the Bristol Rovers match. I think he probably thought, he's got a point there. I haven't been pulling my weight.
Fair point.
He's taken it on board, and now he's proven his worth.
Okay, fair point. All right, Jeremy, as always, a pleasure talking football with you, my man. Look after yourself. Thanks for coming on.
Thing.
Oh, there's always one more thing with everybody in there. Just one more thing.
We are going up.
Love it, Jeremy. Appreciate it. Why can't anyone ever say, George, one more thing? You're great, Gov. Or one more thing. It's £50, Gov. Do you know what I mean? Like, they never say that to me. There's always one more thing. And it's never 50 quid or you're just doing a good job, Gov.
50 quid.
I take a fiver to be fair, but or just say you're doing a good job, Gov. Just one more thing.
Because that's a given. Go.
Oh,
you're doing a good job.
Such a sweetie. Stephen says, best centre midfielder in League One, Charlie Button. In McKenna, we trust. Zurek says McKenna actually jested about being taking him off after the Spurs game. He said, I couldn't get him off quick enough. Obviously, he scored a hat-trick, didn't he, in this behind closed doors. Phil Blundell, we scored 74 league goals and under 16 for the 90 mark. Oh, forget that, Phil. 100 points, 100 goals. Sorry, it says one more thing. Gov, shut up. There you go. You see, that's the level of banter I get from my own live chat. Although Graham does say, love this show, Gov. Thanks ever so much. Graham, I love you. Thank you for supporting Talking Town by being a fifth stander. Unlike Zurak, whose name's not in greens. Come on. If you're gonna abuse me, Zurak, at least put your hand in your pocket.
Pay for the pleasure.
Sign yourself up. £5 a month, and you can abuse me all you want. I mean, mate. Many people in my life they would jump at that chance. Right, George, a couple of questions that came in on the back end of yesterday's show. We didn't have time to cover. You've not seen them. I've not asked you beforehand. I'm going to fire them at you. And any more in the chat, please do get them in. First of all, Mike D said it'd be interesting to see how we react if or when we finally concede and go down. He believes the boys can do it, though. How do you think the team will react when or if they ever concede a goal?
That's exactly what I said earlier, and I think I don't know, and I think that's my biggest concern. Is probably not the right word, but that's the thing that I'm most interested to see is how we deal with A, conceding, and B, if it ends up with dropping points, or even if there's a heaven forbid a 0-0 somewhere, how we cope with that and how we bounce back. And because that's something we weren't doing particularly well earlier in the season, and specifically during our, are we calling it a blip, where we lost some pace, and so I think that will be a real test of our mental strength, because that's what it comes down to.
Perfect.
And I don't know how they'll react.
Okay. Well, that's when our mate Kev earns his money, right?
Yeah, 100%.
That mentality aspect again. Lewis Robinson, perhaps knowing the accounts coming out today, he said, if we go up, what's your ballpark figure on how much we spend in the summer? He reckons 10 to 15 million. How much do you think we spend in the summer if we go up?
Oh, isn't that exciting? I reckon, I don't know. This year,
Dream big. It's like the old national lottery.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? I'd say between 10 and 20.
Ooh. Is that one player or is that on a collective couple of players?
One player.
I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
No, I mean, do you know what? That's an exercise we haven't done yet. I'm sure that's coming, but the squad.
That's coming
for next season, and who makes it once we know where we're going to be. But it wouldn't surprise me at all. I don't know what positions and all the rest of it, but I don't think. We spent 6 in League One.
True.
I don't think we have £6 million, but I'd be very surprised if we had £6 million put aside every season for the next X, Y, or Z years. I think what it is when a player of the caliber that we want becomes available in the price bracket that we're willing to pay, then we'll pay it. And I think that's how it should work. Like previously, where we were just constantly trying to haggle people down and then walking away from deals, I suspect is not the way to do it. We have to spend money to be successful, and I imagine that's very clear from both sides of the pond. And money will be available. How much money will depend on who it is and where we are. But It wouldn't surprise me at all if it was over 10.
Okay, I'm gonna go dream. Go big or go home. 30 million quid. Stephen Parry says 10 million. Josh says 10 to 15. Just 15 on that on a striker. Josh, George, to be honest with you, 10 to 15 says Josh. I'd love to know what you think we're going to spend if we were to get promoted. So do put that in the chat. Minimum of 10 million says Mark. But we'll still have a lot of lads as well who won't be good enough to play at the higher level. Another question we got was from Kev Flavin. Do you worry that it will be tough to hold on to Kieran McKenna in the future? Personally, I think he's Ipswich for the long term. Are you concerned about that, George, at all? Holding on to Super
I said about this time last year, that is the biggest. In a way, it's kind of nice to think that we're a club who people are looking at the manager of with envy, but. Yeah, people will start knocking on the door, and it will be a test of everybody's resolve. But funny enough, I was thinking about it earlier because obviously Potter went to Chelsea, didn't last very long. Like next big thing in English management, hasn't really done it. I'd be really interested to know what his thoughts are. Like take the finances away, how that not that you can't take the finances away, but whether that was the right decision, or how he feels about it, and whether other young managers look at it and think, if Tottenham came knocking, like, is it worth it? Is it worth going there for 6 months? And I mean, financially, of course it is, because you get paid off a huge amount of money, I suspect. But for his career, is it worth going for 6 months and it not quite working out because of all the prima donnas in the Tottenham squad, and or would I rather stay somewhere like Ipswich for 5 years, where I've been 18 months into it, we're seeing real inroads, and who knows? Literally, the sky's the limit. I've got investors. I'm in a club with no debt, which don't really exist, with good owners who aren't going to suddenly stop. We assume aren't going to suddenly stop funding the efforts to get better. Like, we haven't been taken over and going to go into administration 18 months later, like some clubs, who you have to feel for, because they have that excitement of being taken over and being rescued, only for the money to just immediately dry up. And it's such a gamble jumping up, like we're talking about McKenna would. Would he leave us to go to the Championship? I doubt it. It would have to be it feels like it would have to be a big club, and then it comes down to, whether it's worth the risk for him. But yeah, Tottenham, Manchester United come knocking, who knows? But I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm sure clubs will start, if they haven't already, knocking on Mr. Ashton's door and asking what it would take to have a chat. You're on mute, or you've unplugged your microphone. Gov, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm on mute.
Sorry, for the last 5 minutes.
It's fine. It's fine. I heard myself. That's the most
said
important.
it, and I was like, maybe it's my computer that's not working, because
No.
What?
No. I was too busy looking up whether Zurak has actually put his hand in his pocket yet to abuse me for the privilege of a £5 note. That's what I really was doing. And I can confirm he hasn't yet, so that's disappointing. And I was going to put the link in again, so I'll do that just for you, as you've made me now also go on mute. But the last question is from James Warren Elmer. Hey, I didn't say we're professional at Talking Town, all right? I didn't say it was a professional outfit. I just said it was the best outfit, all right? And I've got one more thing, Gov. You're on mute. Oh dear, never mind. James Warren Elmer, who's, by the way, Zurich, James is a YouTube member, because he likes to pay to abuse me. But he says that if we go up, do you see us selling out every game, home and away, George?
Yeah, I do. We're pretty close to that now. Like, it's been crazy this year. Like, fair play to the fans for filling the stadium. From, like, even when we were having our blip. Like, support didn't really wane. There's no. It's just been phenomenal support, and I don't see that changing if we become more successful. So yeah, I think it will probably be nigh on impossible to get decent tickets next year.
Yeah, so you get used to sitting behind a cobble stand.
Just purchase some restricted view tickets for Friday. Yeah, I think that's a testament to where everyone believes we're going. But yeah, I think if we don't go up, it will be pretty close to selling out every game.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, I was just remembering back to Marcus Evans' days where I would try and actively search out the restricted view, just so I couldn't have to watch what was going on in front of my very eyes. Zurek says, one day you'll say the name correct. No one can. Don't worry. I can't say Kevin Smith correctly, so you got no chance, I'm afraid. Lee Brown, if you go up, Gov will increase your monthly. That's more reason for the town to go up. Appreciate that. I'll be holding that to that, Lee. Invoice coming next month. Don't worry. Graham Roberts, my 3R RV, but still gold dust. Oh, he's 3R restricted view, but it's still gold dust. Absolutely. Right, we're done for this evening. We're back on Wednesday, 8:30 for the half-hour, 40-minute match day preview show. We're looking ahead, obviously, to Wickham, Good Friday, so do join us then. Hit the like button, subscribe, become a Talking Town 5th standard. But we are back and we are here for the next 7 to 9 weeks. But the variation depends on town, very much so. But this man here is the wonderful designer George Nunn, smiling as always. You are the wonderful Talking Town faithful, the wonderful Ipswich Town fan base, the best team in the world, the pride of Anglia. And this is Talking Town for fans, by fans. And I'll see you all on Wednesday.
You make me smile when I think of you. If I get down or when I get blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. Hopeless lover. I woke up all soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. I felt went crazy from